Aloha, this is John Stormer with the Maui Nui Marine Resource Council. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the gulches or intermittent streams in North Kihei, the Muliwai that they feed into, and the effects that we've seen both on the roads and out in the ocean. The storm that we had this time around was a little bit different than the ones we've had in the past years, even though we did get a lot of mud on the roads, did see some dirt in the ocean. So it was sort of a surprise ending. So stick around to the end of this video to figure out what was different. Even though I'd love to keep talking outside, I think it's going to be easier if I hop on a computer, so let's head inside. So here is Waipuilani Muliwai, and we can see this finger that's sort of up and down in the screen is a spring or part of the Muliwai that has grown quite a bit over the last storm event. And you can see this was all this brown stuff was sort of brown before. This is all wetland that is doing what wetlands do, which is really slow down the flow of water and hold back sediment. We're coming up here to Waiahuli Kai. This is another Muliwai. These Waipuilani and Waiahuli are actually connected in a way because part of the upper Waipuilani Gulch gets diverted into a bunch of residential areas and eventually makes it out at Waiahuli. On the right of the screen there you can see another sort of outflow. This is a little spring that only flows, as far as I can tell, during very strong storm events. Passing over the Loko'ia or fish pond by Kalepolepo Park. And you'll notice this is surprisingly clear water. You can see that there's clear sand, not very much red dirt, which was surprising all around. You can see the rocks from the wall of the Loko'ia, both above and below the water. Here we're coming up on Kulanihakoi Muliwai. And you can see on the upper right there, it's still flowing, not as massively as it was during the storms. We have a new sandbar out front, which is a new feature. We'll get into that a little bit more. There you can see the area that was cleaned out by Public Works and filled in by the storm to a certain extent. So then we jump up north and you can see Waiakoa Gulch down in the foreground. Lots of mud on the road. This is after the big storm event. And then there in the upper right, you can see Kiahua'iwi Gulch, which comes off of Bayer's property and drains into Kealia Pond. The aftermath, quite a bit of sediment got out into the ocean. This is light sediment. You can also see sort of rafts of organic matter floating along the shoreline, causing some texturing there. And here's Kulanihakoi Gulch, sort of in the middle of it all, flowing out pretty briskly, carrying sediment out into the ocean. So without a doubt, a fair bit of sediment was going out. This is all fairly fine grained, so very sort of clay-like, flour-like. It's mixing with the waves, it's getting churned up along the coastline. And you can see the waves really look like it's almost chocolate milk here. So a fair bit of sediment did get out there, and this is the concern because this landing on corals is not a great situation. So we're going to dive a little bit more into Kulanihakoi Gulch. Here we are from the coastline, going over the bridge which was blocked and caused a fair bit of the water to go over the road. You can see a lot of sediment there in the gulch. This was cleaned out by Public Works, and the storm really did a fair bit of work to fill it back in. However, this is great because this is stuff that's still on land, can be addressed, did not make it out to the ocean. The stuff we've been seeing was lighter grained sediment, sort of silty, muddy stuff. Now you can sort of see this change, a transition. This is more cindery, sandy sort of material. So it was heavier as it came out of the narrow channel, which had a lot of force, a lot of push. The water slowed down and things started to settle out. This is why wetlands, especially broad area wetlands, are so important. They slow down the water. They allow the sediment to drop out of the water column, and the water slowly drains out into the ocean. Here we can see there's still some water coming down the mountain, still within the gulch, but it's not flowing very quickly anymore. You can see some debris there that washed down, rocks that got pushed down as well. This is all stuff that has filled into the gulch since it was cleaned out by Public Works. So it gives you a sense of how strong that flow was. Here we're getting into a sediment area. That means that the water slowed down at some point. This might have been a later rainstorm at the end. The lighter stuff just didn't push all the way out, and we've got some more rocks under the bridge, and you can see infill under the bridge from the storm. Now we hop over to the other side of Pilani Highway. We're going up the gulch here, over Kona Low Ranch, and you can see that's pretty coarse, kind of gray, sandy material, lots of pohaku. That's telling you that that narrow channel was really pushing a lot of water very quickly. And here you can see this is the area that this gulch drains, so quite a bit of area to catch water and push it down towards the ocean. All right, now we're going to jump back to the coastline. Here's the Muliwai. We're going to see how it changes over time during the storm. You can see at the bottom is the channel that Public Works created to drain overflow, and there's actually a little person digging away. Because of that person digging away, the channel now flushed out, and the Muliwai, actually the water level dropped, and you can sort of see a bathtub ring near the top. Here the water has pushed over and sort of obliterated everything, but now we're seeing it starting to fill in again as we get more rain. This is several days later. The big flow has happened. You just see a little bit of the brown sediment left. Again, here's water actually pushing in, and this is sort of the state that we have today. Flipping it around and heading offshore, you can see the drainage channel from the Muliwai, the sandbar that was created with all the stuff washing out over the storm. You can see a little bit of sediment to the left there, and some stripes of sediment as well, the brown stuff there. But surprisingly, the sand is white. You can see it pretty clearly. You're seeing texture and rocks, and as we continue out, we're seeing those white things are actually coral heads, and we are now right over the coral reef that is offshore. And surprisingly clear. The water on the right is probably about 20 feet deep. We can see it's sand, and white sand, and not brown sand, so that suggests that it isn't mud, and lots of coral. We're seeing the wave wash across it. There's not sediment getting stirred up, so this is surprisingly clean after the big storm event that we had. And here we're starting to head inland a little bit. Rock and sediment. We're not seeing a whole lot of coral at this point, and there's the wall of another loko'ia by Waiahuli, which we're going to pass over. There was Waiahuli on the right just momentarily, the Muliwai. Here we're seeing some turbidity, and this area seems to hold sediment and get stirred up regardless of how clear anything else is, so this is not too surprising. You can sort of see the edge of some sediment on the left of the screen there, but again, within the loko'ia here, within the fish pond, is fairly clean. We can see down to the bottom. We see that there's sand. Hard to tell what the stuff on the inside of the wall is, whether that's sediment or rocks, but outside we can see rocks through the water, which is suggesting fairly clear water. So here we're starting to look up the coast from Kulaniakoi, and that's fairly clear. So I hope you're as pleasantly surprised by the outcome that we've discovered here just this morning, that the water is seemingly clear. Not what we expected after such a heavy amount of rain coming down on South Maui. If you saw some cool observations during the storm, feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below. And as always, if you enjoy this sort of content, want to see more of it, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching to the end.